I've been critical of Eddie Hearn in the past because he keeps linking Anthony Joshua with names like Tyson Fury and David Haye. Um, my main criticism of this is that he's not actually going to be involved in these fights anytime soon. Eddie Hearn constantly linking him with these names kind of emphasises how weak the level of opposition he's been in with is. Now, I don't have a problem with you taking Aritz in your 8th fight or Baktov in your 9th fight. This is pretty impressive compared to what most heavyweight prospects fight against. But if you keep getting linked with David Haye, keep getting linked with Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora, David Price, then understandably the public are going to have questions and be a bit put off when your next fight is actually against Michael Sprott, who's in the autumn of his career to be charitable and been stopped in the first round several times in recent years. And because of that, I was surprised when, yet again, on Sky today, Eddie Hearn appeared to talk up a fight between David Price, who was ringside as a commentator, and Anthony Joshua. I thought David Price, when asked about it by Johnny Nelson, answered it perfectly in the sense that, yeah, he's ready for the fight, and Price seemed to want the fight. But from Price said, if I was Joshua's manager, I wouldn't take the fight because, he hasn't had anyone who's given him rounds yet. But Price is a different animal, someone who's going to come in and give him rounds and survive for a bit. Price gets by in a similar way to Anthony Joshua by being a massive puncher and by knocking people out early on in fights. And Joshua's not had anyone in the build-up of his career so far to prepare him for Price's power. He's not been in with anyone who can punch even remotely hard as Price. He's also been in with heavyweights who tend to be a lot smaller than him. Just look at his last 2 fights, Aritz, Baktov, he's been 6, 7, 8 inches taller than these guys, much rangier. Price is the bigger man than Joshua, a taller guy. So there's too many risks in that fight, and I don't think it is a realistic fight. I know that Hearn has a spectacular relationship with the Sauerlands, so it probably is a fight that could be made if he really wanted it. Price seemed keen, certainly, and it would sell well domestically. But from my perspective, I don't see the risk reward being there. If you knock out David Price, you beat a guy who's been stopped twice by an ageing Tony Thompson. There's questions about Price's suspect chin. He's got knocked out by an ageing non-puncher in Tony Thompson. So what do you actually gain from beating Price? Not a lot. Whereas the risk is huge. Price is a real big puncher. He does have the potential to knock Anthony Joshua out, because Price has the potential to knock any heavyweight out he hits that hard. Joshua's chin is untested. He also fights from range. He works so much off his jab and dominates from the outside, Joshua. With Price, it's going to be much harder for him to do that, because Price is so rangy, so big, and a taller man. So I don't think the risk reward for that fight adds up whatsoever. I think it's a riskier fight for Joshua than, say, Derek Chisora, who he could try and fight from the outside and who isn't a one-punch knockout artist. If I was Eddie Hearn, I'd be more inclined to look at a Chisora fight as opposed to a David Price fight. And I think David Price summed it up quite well actually on Sky by saying he's a different animal to what Joshua's been in with, and if he was the manager he wouldn't take the fight. I don't see Eddie Hearn making the fight because Eddie Hearn's very, very shrewd. He knows how to manage a heavyweight, and I don't think the risk reward is there, so I don't see that fight being made. I understand the urgency of building hype around a big heavyweight, but I think continually linking him with these big domestic names, if it's not going to happen, isn't really doing anyone a favour, because who's he going to fight after Michael Sprott? It's only going to be disappointment if it's someone a level below a Price or a Fury. And realistically, it is going to be someone a level below Price and Fury. I don't see those fights being made anytime soon whatsoever. So realistically, it's going to be a lesser opponent, and it's just not going to reflect well, with all the discussion there's been about him fighting these guys. So I don't see it as a realistic matchup. If they did fight, Price and Chisora, or Price and Joshua even, I'd probably lean towards Joshua because I think he's a bit more dynamic. And I think Price has shown signs of you know, some question about his, I don't want to say chin, but because he took a lot of shots in that Thompson fight, but he's shown questions about his stamina and durability. Whereas, the way Anthony Joshua brings it, he'd be live to expose any weaknesses in either stamina or durability. But you'd say Joshua in a 60-40 fight, because Joshua hasn't shown that he's a defensive wizard, and the way Price hits, Price is live in any fight. That fight's not going to be made. It's not, the risk reward isn't there. And I just don't get what Hearn's doing, because it's only going to create disappointment when the fight after Sprott is someone at a lower level with less public interest.